One, two, 1, 2. We are live. Another edition of the GYGB War Report Show. I'm your co-host, Roberto Flack, my man, Coltrane, out in Philly. What's popping?
What's good, my dude? What's crack-a-lacking?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, our apologies last week. We couldn't make the show. We got some. This is going to be a quick show tonight, man. We got some things to discuss. I mean, really one topic, but we're going to run down the line of things that we maybe missed last week as far as, I mean, look, man, I think naturally the big thing right now in boxing is the whole network streaming situation and
Right.
Canelo landing this deal and I think some other news is coming up as far as that's concerned. But I mean, really, Canelo is the big deal.
Right.
But beyond, and we'll get more to that. But before we get to like you say, the meat and potatoes, we did have some boxing over the weekend. The last notable fight I want to say on HBO, as it relates to world title fights. I mean, one of the big news stories this year is obviously HBO bowing out after 45 years in the business, and they are bowing out, and we're kind of seeing the last little events, and I think there's one coming in December, but I haven't. No, wait, you know what? I'm lying. Jean Pascal and Dimitri Bivol are fighting next month. I completely forgot about that. So that wasn't the last notable fight. But needless to say, it was one of the last. Danny Jacobs, Sergey Derevyanchenko. We didn't cover it last week, but pretty much, man. This was a back and forth fight. Both guys going into, I mean, they both know each other. 300 rounds collectively sparring between both guys, together. And I think we kind of saw that Saturday night as it relates to how both guys reacted to one another. But and I'll pass it to Train, but I mean, I thought Jacobs won the fight. I don't think we've seen the last of Sergey Derevyanchenko. Well, people got to remember, this guy only has 12 fights and hasn't fought the super upper echelon of the divisions. I mean, this is like the biggest fight of his career, and he made a good account for himself. I just think inexperienced, but I think people now want to see Danny Jacobs now in with Canelo Alvarez or Demetrius Andre, but likely Canelo. But what did you think? Did you get to see the fight on Saturday?
I did get to see the fight. But before I get in the fight real quick, I got something new I want to add to the show real quick.
Okay,
a special guest wants to join us tonight. And he's calling all the way from Alexandria or the Hilltop. Rick Grimes, where are you? Coltrane, it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even matter. I'm here for two reasons. Two reasons only. Over here, you got premier boxing champions, Al Heyman. And over here, top-ranked promotions, Al Heyman. No more fighting. We're going to come together as a unit for the fans and most importantly, for Carl. Thanks, Rick. Anyway, back. Yo, shout out to Rick Grimes.
Shout out to Rick Grimes, man.
The most dramatic. Yo, Rick Grimes can read a menu at Applebee's, and it's so dramatic.
No, man, right?
Everything is dramatic. You got to watch The Walking Dead to understand what
all the Walking Dead, man. Yeah, so I mean, I know y'all get it, but
I had to, Roberto. I was just laughing. I was like, can you imagine him like in the middle of this talking about boxing?
Him be in the middle, man. Everybody getting the whole meeting.
Yeah, the bridge.
Gotta build a bridge.
Anyway, back to the scheduled program. Rick Grimes gonna make an appearance. I'm gonna bring you. I want to ride it down to be here. He'll catch the replay. But anyhow, my problem always been with Danny Jacobs, Roberto, is that I told Rada Die, he's a very decent fighter. And while I'm watching this fight, I'm like, this is the guy, right? If I had to draw an analogy, he's the guy and I'm a steal from Rada Die because he said the last part to this, but I brought up the first part. I said he's the guy that's really okay with being a C student, basically. You know, when the big tests show up.
Right.
And Rada Die said, and he will run and brag to everybody that he got a C. There's nothing wrong with being a C student. I was kind of a C student pretty much throughout my life. Not that I was a C student quality. I just sometimes did the bare minimum. But I'm not a fighter getting paid millions of dollars and I'm not, you know, I was just trying to get through life where he's trying to be on the forefront, getting these big fights. And we always talk about this with these fighters. When you get these moments, now he won the fight, and he's right. The fight wasn't as close as they made it out to be, but it was a lot more close than it needed to be. That's the point that he missed out on. And he showed up for the Triple G fight, but again, now some people will say that they thought he won the fight. I actually thought Triple G won that fight. And I thought he didn't seize opportunities in that particular fight. But that was withstanding. You had a guy that, you listen, like you said, he sparred to give him some credit. I mean, to give him some leeway here. He sparred over 300 rounds with the guy. So the guy knew his tendencies. So sometimes that happens in boxing where you spar a guy and he knows all your tendencies. So it's hard to look good against him. But that being said, it's like, can somebody point out to me at one time they said, yo, Daniel Jacobs is that that dude, like he that next up guy, like he's that, like even whatever people opinions may be on a Charlo, well, let's just go with Jamal because he's at the higher weight class. Now he didn't fight the level of competition that Triple Jacobs fought, but at least it was some ground shattering stuff. You know what I'm saying? When you watching it, Daniel Jacobs, you look at him, and I shout out to Corey. Because Corey was the big Daniel Jacobs fan out the group. And I was like, yo, what does he do great? Like, what do he do great? Like, even with Canelo, you could say he's a boxer, right? He's a really good boxer. Triple G hits hard. Daniel Jacobs, okay, you could say he's a good boxer. Do he really hit hard? His chin is a little shaky, although it hasn't looked shaky in a little while. But not this fight, Roberto, but the last fight that he had. He looked lackluster than that fight.
Yeah.
And listen, the guy was catching.
That guy was a junior middleweight.
He was a junior middleweight catching. He was sloppy stuff.
Yeah.
So my point being is that when you start yelling out the Canelos and the Triple Gs and all that guy and those guys, you gotta mop these lower level guys. You know what I mean? You gotta make statements. You got to make statements when you fighting these guys. And I just feel like he hasn't made a statement in his last. No statement was made in his last. You got to kind of dictate what's happening here. And I just think that when you don't show and prove, not that had he knocked the guy out in the third round, he gonna automatically get the Triple G fight. I'm just saying that getting the public opinion on your side, you know, the public perception.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it.
And you hit a lot of good points, man. And that's where I'm at with Danny Jacobs at this point, because it's seeing that performance. There's nothing that I saw that said, yeah, this guy definitely can beat Canelo Alvarez. You know, our narrative I think our narrative was a little different maybe a year and a half ago, but seeing as we've seen now Canelo in there with Triple G twice, we saw Canelo have the ability to make adjustments. So at that point, man, I think all of us collectively were like, okay, well, there's wrinkles to Canelo that maybe we didn't know about. And with Danny, like, and let's put this into perspective, man. Danny has been out here for like years, man. Like the P-Rog knockout was like in 2010. I mean, this is like 8 years. He's like, you know, been campaigning again outside of when he was dealing with the cancer. And we here at GYGB, man, like we salute Danny Jacobs. I don't want people to take this the wrong way, but I think
he's a good fighter.
He's a good fighter, but again, there's levels to this, and we always say this, okay? And that's why the cream
Say it
to usually
again.
rise to the top. And I just think Danny Jacobs may look good against guys like David Lemieux. I think he may look good even like against Billy Joe Saunders and fighters like that. But when you start talking about like Canelo Alvarez, you start talking about, I mean, I don't, and then look, if he were to fight Triple G again, and I think that's highly unlikely, does he do better than the first fight, or has Triple G digressed enough where, you know, he kind of may look better? I don't know. Based on what I saw Saturday, I'm inclined to think that Triple G may even beat him worse the second time around. But it's a tough gauge with him, man. I mean, look, if you were to ask me right now, I think Canelo would likely stop Danny Jacobs late. I just think Canelo right now is at the top of his game. To your point, man, I just think Danny just does just enough. And that just enough, as we found out, is not enough to beat Canelo Alvarez, whether you thought he lost last September, you know? So I don't know, man.
I don't even know if he beat the Charlo twin. Like
that too. And I think with Jamal, it's like that's another question mark. That's another, unfortunately, a fight we're probably not going to see. I think that's probably the best matchup based on guys that one guy needs a fight, the other guy, I'd like to see him in there with somebody like a Jamal, you know, who could punch, he could box a bit, he's got some speed on him. I don't know, like him and Andre, like, you know, he's injured now, but like to ROD's point, they've been hanging around a lot. That might not make, and even stylistically, that might not make for like a great fight. So,
right.
I don't know. We'll see what's up with Danny Jacobs. But I mean, I think from this point, it's pretty clear. We'll segue now into like really the subject at hand.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, it's no secret that the end of 2018 has been, the news stories have been have been primarily delegated towards kind of the changing of the guard as it relates to the network deals and where these fighters are going, and you know, HBO bowing out. 2019 is going to look like a very different a different sport in relation to where boxing is televised. I mean, look, we still got Showtime and ESPN that have been mainstays for years, but now with Fox at the helm, and now with DAZN, you know, the streaming app that apparently is just throwing money at everybody. Things are changing, man. Things are really changing, and you know, we're coming off Canelo Alvarez signing a huge $365 million deal with DAZN, which is going to guarantee him around like $33 million a fight, and that's not including his endorsement deals and the Mexican TV rights he has over there. So, Canelo he got the bag, as they say. And then, you know, we didn't report last week. We didn't have the show. Manny Pacquiao officially signs with Al Heyman. He's going to be fighting Adrian Broner January 19th on Showtime pay-per-view. I'm pretty sure he got a nice chunk of money. The one guy that is kind of still out there, or he is still out there, and he is without question the biggest free agent in boxing right now, is Gennady Triple G Golovkin. So, man, I'll pass it to you, Train. In the climate we're in right now, and now that at least at the middleweight division, there seems to be a how would they say, like the house money with the middleweight division is on DAZN, man. Every single world champion is on DAZN. So based on everything, money, the networks, viewership, all things considered, man, I mean, where do you think Triple G would be best fit at?
I don't know, man. It's really interesting. I never thought we would be in this situation talking about Triple G potentially signing with Al Heyman, but that's a whole nother story. But to your point, I mean, he's, you know, outside of Canelo, he's the next best attraction, you know, in boxing, probably, right? Am I missing somebody?
Yeah, I mean, I was mentioning, like, I thought, like, okay, well, I don't like to mention Floyd because he's not like.
No, I'm talking about
like occurring,
not the sideshow attractions. I'm saying.
I mean, I think the three guys, I mean, that are currently fighting is.
Who am I missing?
Well, it's really 4. I mean, if you really go by money and things as such, I mean, it's Joshua, Pacquiao, Canelo, Triple G.
Gotcha. I forgot about Joshua. I forgot about him. He's so far away, literally and figuratively.
Literally.
Yeah, right. He's so far away. You forget about all this stuff. But anyway, I mean, he's everybody's chasing Canelo. Obviously, you know he want that 3rd fight with Canelo. I mean, clearly, why wouldn't he? I mean, he'd be a fool not to want it. The Al Heyman one is interesting because of who is there. As a matter of fact, I just saw an article with Canelo's trainer basically saying that they're not fighting the Charlos. But people say stuff now. You never know how stuff change. You know what I mean? Like today, it's November. It's about to be November, and nothing is etched in stone right now. If he was to make the move with Al Heyman, obviously for the right money, people change their mind about things. Then there's the DAZN aspect of it, where, like you said, they throwing around, they throwing it around. They got it. They got a real loose hand right now with their checkbook, and if he goes there, obviously you got Daniel Jacobs over there. That's another potential fight they can do again, and whatever else over there. Some European fighters that we might not be familiar with. Maybe he could just cake off and do a few fights until he fight Canelo. So I'm gonna go on a limb and say he signs where Canelo is signing at. That's where I think that would make the most sense for him, because if he goes with Premier Boxing, he's going to end up doing something that's, how can you say, the reward, the risk doesn't
match the reward.
The reward of the situation. Where with the Canelo situation, it's like, we all know that they gave him this crazy deal, but I'm sure Triple G. Remember I talked about the list of fighters. Triple G was at the top of this, like when Showtime gave Floyd all that money. Pacquiao was at the top of that list, even though he fought at HBO. They were confident enough, behind their business acumen that they could get that fight to jump off. And I think the same thing's probably going to happen here.
Yeah, and I think naturally that's where most people think he's gonna land. I mean,
everybody seemed like they heading over there.
Yeah, I mean, right. It makes sense. Now let me add this, which could be an issue, as it relates to Triple G going to DAZN. Now, for those who aren't aware, like DAZN is not like just delegated to boxing, at least yet. Okay, because
is it like a Netflix? You explain to people exactly what it is.
Yeah, basically, like DAZN, at least, all right, in the United States, DAZN is only showing cricket, Bellator MMA, and boxing. And that's pretty much it for right now. In other parts of the world, like Germany, I think Japan, some of these other places where DAZN was at first, they have more. I think they show soccer there too. They have more sports on there because there's just sports outside of the United States that are more popular outside than in, but what I read up on was the guy, and forgive me for not forgetting his name, the guy who runs DAZN. He basically gave Oscar De La Hoya and Eddie Hearn the key to the house, meaning any deals that are going to go through DAZN as it relates to boxing, Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya are the thresholds officially. So here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
How does that meeting with Tom Loeffler and Oscar De La Hoya play out? Being that they've already went through 2 negotiations to just fight Canelo. Now they're in a situation where now they have to negotiate with Eddie Hearn and Oscar De La Hoya just to land on the platform. So I was like, whoa, okay. So this interview I read today on Boxing Scene was kind of had Tom Loeffler talking about how they one of the guys asked him, like, what's the situation with Triple G? Like, what would you think about him fighting Charlo next? And he flat out said, we're not fighting Charlo. It doesn't make sense. And while some people would say like, oh, he's ducking Charlo, like to Train's point, like Charlo right now brings nothing to the table, and which is why I think he's gonna have a very difficult 2019. 2019 as far as landing fights. But he was asked as well, and he even made mention of ESPN, and somebody had real quick had said like, well, why would you go there? Nobody's who's at ESPN. There's no middleweights there. And he flat out said, he goes, it doesn't matter. Shout to Rick Grimes, because he says that Triple G is the attraction. And like I was like, oh boy, this is not looking good if this is the route they're going for Triple G, man. Because the thing that we fear with Lomachenko and with Terrence Crawford, like, might end up happening with him, where we don't know who these guys, meaning those two, are going to fight, with Mikey potentially fighting Errol Spence, and Terrence Crawford, he's not going to be able to land a notable fight. So that just seems to be like where the ESPN fighters are at right now, depending on your division, which, welterweight and middleweight is not the place to be as far as Top Rank is concerned, man. So, but see, like, I don't know, man. Like, I think with Triple G, we got to look at the fact that, look, the guy I don't think he has like 5 years left, so whatever deals he's going to make, it's going to be like an immediate deal, like a year or two. The irony is Canelo Triple G 3 is still one of the biggest fights to make in boxing, man.
That's what I'm saying. That's why
that's the funny part about it, Does that happen right away? I don't think so. Next September, potentially,
I think next September.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, the deal with Canelo landing on DAZN, people, if they want people to go to the app, he can't be fighting like David Lemieux and then like a fringe contender, and then like, maybe we'll fight Danny Jacobs, and then a fringe, like, if people are going to be paying the subscription fee and they want to jump on board, and DAZN wants to show that they're serious about putting on again, there's a difference between a major fight and one major fighter in the fight. Those fights don't usually sell. The fights that gain the attention are the fights that people want to see. And outside of Canelo and Danny Jacobs, which I think people would want to see, and then Canelo and Triple G, I think those are the two top fights people want to see as the release of Canelo Alvarez. So, yeah, man, I think Triple G might do like a one-fight deal, maybe with ESPN, get his feet wet, have a comeback fight, and I think from that point he can go to DAZN, or he should just be like an independent contractor. I don't think it serves him any good being like doing like a 3-4 fight deal if you kind of want to weigh out your options, but I don't know, man. He's 37, right? He's like 37 years old.
Yeah. I think Triple G looking for one cash out, and it's with Canelo. I think so too. No way he's staying around fighting young, up-and-coming fighters. As we saw in the Canelo fight, he's aged. There's no getting around that. But the one thing about it is he know that worst-case scenario, Canelo could just outbox him. I don't think – because I thought if he was going to get stopped, he would have been stopped. Now, he will be a year older. We don't know how things will look.
Yeah.
I think that fight, they could fight 5 times, and I think all 5 times the fights were kind of
like right there.
They'll look the way they look, where it depends on what you're looking at. Some people will say, well, Canelo outboxed him. Other people will say, well, Triple G was coming forward, yada, yada, yada. I just think that it's literally a match made in heaven, those two guys. And financially, that's the most lucrative fight for him. And ironically, it happens to be a place that he's thinking about maybe going to. So I just think that financially, that would make the most sense for him to sign with DAZN.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like 3 fights out of it, maybe even 2. He might even do, like you say, it's not like he's there going to do a 5-year fight deal, and they knew that.
They know that, yeah, and I think that's probably why I don't think I don't think DAZN will be maybe the first fight, but I think it might be a deal where starting in 2019. Well, see, he's not coming back till 2019, so we got to put that in perspective. But I think it really depends on you know, how things kind of fall in line, for them to build the Canelo fight again, or at least for people to, you know, especially us, because I mean, I think a lot of us going into that third fight, though we all picked Triple G to win the second fight, I don't think any of us would not pick Canelo going into a third fight. You know,
Right,
it just
no doubt about it.
So I think for Triple G, he needs like a big win, like maybe a feel like a comeback fight, maybe one other notable fight, and then he lands Canelo. But I don't know. I don't know if that's one fight, two fights, and then leading to September, or if Canelo is going to continue that same schedule, because I mean he's fighting in December. You know that he's never done that, so I don't know if like this whole DAZN thing is going to change things. I don't think so, unless Mayweather Pacquiao 2 happens, which takes presence over anything Canelo does.
Well, you know, speaking of that, I saw something really interesting early. I mean, not interesting, but I was reading Freddie Roach on Boxing Scene, and he was like, he believes that, let's just say, for some miraculous way, Pat Broner comes up with the victory. He was saying that he think that Floyd would fight Broner if Broner was to happen to be Pat.
Yeah,
because it's a story that could be sold. And I never even thought, you know, we just automatically went with Pacquiao gonna win and they're gonna fight May, and that's that. But I was just like, oh wow, I didn't even think about that. So Broner would not only get one, but two. I mean, that's.
It's funny. It would be two different. I mean, look, it's pretty clear Mayweather Pacquiao would make the bigger money.
Of course, I mean, yeah, but it's still a story to be told,
right? If Broner knocked Pacquiao out, though, can you imagine?
I know.
Can you imagine the shit show that would be that?
That's what makes it hilarious. The fact that he said that, I was like, wow. Another thing we got to bring up is before we close out is Garcia, Mikey Garcia. And
we got to talk about.
I thought was
all of us did. And look, even to your point, you were saying like, yo, Mikey was using his name. Well, now it's like, I guess he is taking the point. Yeah, look, man.
This is like Kell Brook and Triple G, right? This kind of got that vibe to it.
Man, like somebody said, I don't know, one of these people was talking about how they were saying, oh, well, Shane Mosley went up to welterweight and beat Oscar De La Hoya. I'm like, come on, man, like
totally two different circumstances,
two different things, man. Like Shane at lightweight,
was lightning fast. First of all,
he was lightning fast. He had like ridiculous power at that weight.
Bench pressing like 500 pounds. They leave all this stuff. Yeah.
Shane was
parts of the story.
But look, guys, Mikey Garcia, even at 140 pounds, looks small compared to.
I was going to say,
not even a real welterweight, you know.
Right.
And look, we at GYGB, man, like we are all about skill. You know,
no doubt about it.
But there's weight classes for a reason, and it's the same reason why, as good as Lomachenko is at 135 pounds, he would have a very difficult time with guys like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence. Period, man.
Right.
Look, man. There's fighters that can go up in weight and their skills transfer, but I think when you go down the line of fighters that have gone up in weight, and I want to see more in the modern era, most of these guys, when they've gone up in weight, man, they've been very choosy of who they fight right away when they move up. You know, some go into the Lions Den, most don't. This is Mikey Garcia essentially going into the Lions Den, and look, two things can come out of this. He could, three. He wins, shocks us all. You got to put him pound for pound top three. If not, and look, if you even said number one, man, it'd be kind of tough to argue considering he went up two. Well, yeah, he would go up two official weight classes and be like the most avoided guy at that weight, along with Crawford. The thing that concerns me, though, for him is him getting hurt.
Right.
And him not being
But
the same guy
don't
after
you think that his brother, like they wouldn't let like what happened with Kell Brook, right?
I think yeah. I think they throw in that towel. They throw in that towel.
He becomes big brother.
Yep.
Not the trainer that night.
Because look, man, Robert don't want that fight.
He don't want it at all.
It's pretty clear Robert don't want that fight. They want that Lomachenko fight, man.
Yeah.
Like, because they know, number one, it's a demanded fight. Nobody wanted to see Spence and Mikey Garcia. We want competitive fights, man.
Right. That's just
that's really what it comes down to. It's Lomachenko, Mikey Garcia, without question. Next to Crawford, Spence.
Right.
And I don't even count Wilder, Joshua, because I think both of those fights will present a lot more skill than that fight. That fight, someone's going to sleep probably in like the first 5 rounds.
Right.
I mean, it is what it is, man. So
I'm reading these threads, right? And I'm sure you saw it out there too. A lot of them. Listen, Mikey Garcia he's a really good fighter.
He is, man. We all like him.
One of the best fighters in boxing, but like that's like Floyd fighting Andre Ward. Like Floyd is the better fighter, but it's like, yo, you know what I mean? Like
super middleweight, man.
Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's not just a welterweight. This is one of the most physically gifted welterweights in the division, who's barely a welterweight himself. He might be a middleweight.
Thank you. Exactly. He definitely is.
Even Crawford might be like, okay, they fought in the amateurs. Crawford, not a big guy, even though we would go with Crawford. But it's like, that would make more sense to me than this. It would
because Crawford went, and you could see, he started at 135.
And he's a smaller guy.
He's a smaller guy. Like, Spence fought at 154 already, man. Like, he already fought there. So what do you think is going to happen?
He's going to walk Mikey Garcia down, man.
He's going to walk him down.
It's like Triple G did with Kell Brook. I remember people texting me, oh, I told you this was going to happen. I said, just keep watching. He's getting
closer. Watch what happens.
And closer and closer. And what happened? He ended up wearing what Kell Brook out. I mean, he had to wear, Triple G ended up wearing Kell Brook out.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because Kell Brook's never been the same after that fight.
He's never been the same. And he fought Earl Spence right after that.
Earl Spence right after. And look, to his credit, man, he gave Earl Spence a tough fight, man. Like that, when you watch that fight back,
he was outboxing him.
He was outboxing Spence, and then it was just
Spence is so physically gifted, though. He's like triple. He's like a middle. My dad was like, he hasn't seen a fighter this imposing since Marvin Hagler, who's a middleweight, by the way. This is who he was comparing him to. Like, he's so physically imposing, and he's a welterweight.
Right.
Like, guys at that weight don't fight like that. They just don't.
No.
Like, he's physically imposing on you. Listen, it ain't no secret what he did to Floyd Eye before the Guerrero fight.
Right?
Like, Spence is a guy that's been in the boxing circuit for a long time. Ain't no secret what he did to Adrian Broner. You know what I mean? Like, listen,
now they're hanging out, right?
Listen, he might not be as the most polished, slick, quote. Like, Mikey Garcia is a better boxer than he is, but like there's weight classes for a reason. He's gonna get walked down. We're telling you guys now. I know people gonna be upset because Mikey got a lot of diehard fans, and we're not trying to burst nobody's bubbles, but there's weight classes for a reason. He's trying to, and listen, props to him, daring to be great, trying to do like a modern day Hank Armstrong, a guy that climbed the weight ladder back in the day. He didn't technically really have a weight class, and this is kind of what Mikey Garcia is doing. He's like parading himself in between weight classes. But I don't know if he's the athlete that Henry Hank Armstrong was, though. That dude was he was stout. Where Mikey relies more on technician and subtle movement. His is more about the science and the skill, where it only can take you so far in weight class. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree, man. You touch on some great points, and
Yeah.
Look, the irony is, man, we're gonna watch it. You know,
Oh, for sure, I'm gonna watch it because it's possible. You never know what can happen. For sure,
can happen. You know, it's just look, man. Again, and this is what kind of worries me about, you know, and before we wrap up, this is what kind of concerns me going into 2019, man. I mean, I think boxing needed a boost, a change, you know. But you know, with these networks and things as such, and look, man, we get it, man. I mean, just in our regular lives, man, we're starting to see cable television change. I mean, all of us here, we're starting. I mean, some of us are already there, but a chunk of us are starting to merge into that streaming world, man. So it makes sense why. Yeah, it makes sense why the promoters and everybody are starting to see, you know, this. How cable television is starting to kind of go out the window, and Hulu Live, YouTube Live, the Disney ESPN apps coming next year.
Bro, YouTube got original programming. I bet you people don't even know that. I just watched a movie on there the other day.
Well,
really good one too.
The Cobra Kai joint.
These are like polished productions. I'm not talking about like, remember before when YouTube had movies that looked like it was shot with like a
like an iPhone.
Right, exactly. It'd be choppy footage, but these are like real, like legitimate productions that they're putting on YouTube. Just to your point.
The Cobra Kai joint, I mean, that was two main directors. And they got the whole cast. Well, not the whole cast, but they got two of the main guys.
Right.
And that was one of the biggest shows last year, right?
Yo, real quick before we go off, because you know me and you, we horror buffs. Haunted, what is it? Haunted Hill? What's it? The Haunted
House or the yeah, whatever that is. Yeah.
Yo, that joint's so creepy. My kids who got like a real, you know, tough threshold and tolerance when it comes to haunting stuff, but it's creepy on another level type of creepy. So it's like, oh, this is a little too real. So I'm stuck down here by myself watching that joint.
Yeah, and look, man, and we say that to say this, man. You know, I read on the comments, you know, through the week, you know, on the Facebook page, and you know, there's still a lot of people that are down on the streaming and they don't want to deal with it and everything. But look, I tell people, I go, get used to it, man. Get used to it, because
it's this Disney thing come knocking.
Oh man, but what I tell people too is the tech is gonna get better. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, that's how. Look at Netflix, how it started. Look how.
Yeah, I'll give another example. Look at MP3 downloads like in 1998, and look at what it is today. You know, like it is what it is, man. Like,
you know what's gonna happen? ESPN gonna be like, all right, with Disney, whoever, the same people. They're gonna be like, I'm saying, little years down the line, we are only streaming women's volleyball and baseball on our regular ESPN TV channel. If you want to watch basketball, football, or baseball, you're gonna have to get our streaming package. No, that's how it normally goes later. Not now. Some years down the line.
Yeah, man. Yo, it's
isn't that how it goes?
It's hard for people. It's hard for people to see it right now because everything is just so brand new, and that's why I say whoever in the boxing world, whoever figures out the streaming situation, and maybe it is DAZN, maybe it's some other outfit we haven't even seen yet. As the tech progresses, somebody's gonna figure it out, and I think everything's gonna kind of fall in line. And I make the example of back in the '80s when boxing was still on network TV. And as it started to merge into the 90s, we started to see less and less boxing on network TV. And then it was delegated to just HBO and Showtime. And back then, people were saying, oh, boxing's dying. But how are we going to sit here and pretend like we didn't see the two biggest grossing fights in the history of the sport happen post 1990, you know?
Right. No, that's literally right.
You know, right. You gotta, in order for the sport to flourish and to stay relevant, it has to stay relevant with the platforms. And I always make the correlation.
Good point.
I always make the correlation. And Docs, shout to Docs, he can attest to this too. Just how the music industry changed, and MP3s were coming about, and the record labels were kind of not paying attention to it, or they weren't. They're like, oh, we're gonna sue them, da, 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 da. As opposed to seeing like, wow, this is where the tech is going. We need to like work fast to like go with the times.
Right.
And then when you look at the record industry, the way artists are paid, the way records are released, everything has changed. Like everything has changed. So I say that with the boxing world, man. I think it's a good thing that they're proactive about it. And for the fans, yo, man, look, you love the sport. You're gonna continue to watch it. You know, when I see people saying, "Oh, I'm not gonna watch," come on, man. Like, if you love something that much, man, you're gonna find a way to watch it. Why? How do you think we've been watching boxing for the last like?
Yeah, we built. Listen,
5 years.
Listen, it's an old saying: anything that you love gonna cause you pain, and anything that causes you pain,
that is a great quote, man.
Yeah,
that is a great quote, man. And on that note, man, we are gonna wrap up this week's show, man. We appreciate all our follows on FB.
Our special guest, Rick Grimes.
Shout out to Rick Grimes, Mr. Unity.
Mr. Unity, that's exactly what he is. He's all Mr. Unity. Wait till you see this week's episode. You're gonna really
I gotta catch it a little later, man. Yeah. So but yeah, we'll be back next week, man. This weekend, we got a couple of fights on ESPN Plus. Miguel Mariaga, excuse me, he's actually on that card, but Miguel Burchell's defending his 130 title against Miguel Roman, and then on the zone we have Nonito Donaire. They're doing the whole World Boxing Super Series. Though I don't know how he's making 118 pounds, man. Like. I don't know, man. I don't even know the guy he's fighting. I've never seen him fight, but he's making 118 pounds for the first time, I think, in like close to 8-9 years. Remember when Oscar made 147 for the first time in 10 years?
It looked like he speaking of The Walking Dead.
Word up.
That was sick.
That was bad, dude. That was bad. So
nobody never. You notice nobody never did that ever again since then.
Hell no, man. What are you doing that for, man? Hell no. So yeah, man. We'll be back next week, man. We appreciate all the follows. Appreciate all the likes we've been getting as far as you know our shows coming back now on YouTube, iTunes as well, Anchor.fm, man. We're everywhere. Twitter.
All over.
What happened?
I said we all over.
We're all over we're all over the place, man. So we'll be back next week, man. Follow us at Garcia Boxing on Instagram. I am Roberto Flag. That is my man Coltrane.
Peace.
Till next week. Peace.